you.
My microphone is up in the,
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Can everybody hear us? Okay, good afternoon. This is Irene Jimenez Muir. I am one of the investigators here for the document preparation program. And then I also have with me Antonio Cortez, another investigator, and then also Esperanza Hernandez, who you are probably familiar. She is hold on one second. Can you hear me? Can somebody wave and so we can see that you can hear us? Put it in the chat. Or put it in the chat. Oh, she can hear us. Sorry, everyone, just a few little adjustments to make sure that you can all hear us. Stand up and talk, then we'll just stand up.
yeah, we just talk.
Okay, can everybody hear us now? Can you wave, Angelica? Just to say, so you can hear us, right?
Yeah, she's muted.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, we're gonna get started. So again, as I started to mention, my name is Irene Jimenez Muir. I'm one of the investigators here for the document preparation program. And then I also have Antonio Cortez, another investigator, and Esperanza Hernandez. She helps you when you call in with all your questions for your registration process for document preparation. So the three of us are here. We're gonna get started with our presentation. We really appreciate you all being here. So we're gonna start with just to mention a few misconceptions. If by any chance you have any questions, we would like you to either put them in the chat, but also maybe hold them at the end of this presentation. We're gonna open it up. You'll be able to see us all here. And then we can do, we have a time for a Q&A. So at that time, you can ask your questions and we'll be glad to answer any of them. This is our contact information. If you have any questions regarding compliance, this is the contact information for Antonio and myself. But also down below, you have the DocPrep email, docprep@sos.nv.gov, in case you have just in general questions regarding the program or regarding your applications or registration. So we're going to start with a few misconceptions. So some of the most common misconceptions that we come across here is that most most of the people that that are registering or first time for their first time, a lot of the misconception is that they feel that they just need to pay the $100 and they are registered. And that is not the case. There's as we go along the presentation, you're going to see, we're going to get more into it. You're going to find out that there's more requirements, more guidelines that you have to comply with. So also another misconception is that people think that, because I have a business license, that's all I need. And it's basically the same. Yes, you do need a Nevada business license to operate in the state of Nevada. But if you're doing any type of document preparation under NRS 248, and the definition is under NRS 248030. If you're doing any of those activities, then you must be registered with our office. Also, some people think that if they're certified through the IRS, that's all they need as well to prepare taxes. But if you are an AFSP, exempt from registering with the document preparation are enrolled agents with the IRS. So if that's not you and you are a seasonal preparer, then you need to be registered with our office. Also, some people, because they partner with an attorney, they think that that's okay. They prepare some of these legal pleadings or divorce paperwork, etc. But as we get more into the presentation, you're going to see where it's actually that's a violation of NRS 248-240, which is the prohibited acts law. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Also, the surety bond versus the notary bond. Some people think that just because I have the notary bond that is $10,000, that I'm okay with that now and I don't need another bond. Notary bond, surety bond, they're two totally different things. They cover two different functions. And so the surety bond under the document preparation program is actually $25,000. The penal sum that's required is either $25,000 or $50,000 or above, depending on how you hold your business license and if you have staff or not working for you. And then also one of the biggest ones that we really also want to talk about during this presentation is the notario and notario público, which are prohibited terms under NRS 248-240. We actually want to let you know that this is something that we're really working hard towards letting everyone know this time around, because it is one of the things that we'll be talking about also later on in the presentation is fines. The fine authority that we have now effective July 1st, and this is one of the finable offenses to use this term, and we still find that people are still using it. The law was actually born 10 years ago because of what was called the notario fraud. And so we'll talk about that more. I also want to point out, if you came in early to the presentation, to the meeting, you saw that we had a flyer up with QR codes on it. I don't know if it was sent to everybody, but if it wasn't, at the end of the presentation to everyone attending this meeting, we'll go ahead and resend that flyer. That flyer, if you go into the QR codes, there's a wealth of information on that flyer. And one of the QR codes opens up to the notario. It's called notario warning. And so it'll actually talk about what the proper definition for a notary public is, which is fedatario, and we'll get into that a little bit more. And then also, before we continue, so we need to make sure that we that we verify that you were registered for this meeting, and that we, take note of who is attending. So if you can please make sure that you put your in the chat so that we know, just in case we're not able to get the name now, we have it recorded. And also so that we can sign you in for this meeting. And also, please be aware that this meeting is recorded, so it'll probably show up on our website where you can actually access this information at a later date. But also, anything that you access on that flyer with the QR codes is also on our website. So all of this information that you're getting today, you'll be able to, to go back to and access it from there. So continuing on, who is a document preparer? So a document preparation service is a person who, for compensation and at the direction of a client, provides assistance to the client in a legal matter. And the legal matter is defined under NRS 248-040. And that is defined as preparing or completing any pleading, application, or document, translating the client's answer to a question posted in a document, and submitting a completed document on behalf of the client to an administrative agency. A document preparation service cannot provide advice, and a document preparation service cannot negotiate the rights and responsibilities of a client or communicate the position of a client to another person. A document preparation service cannot appear on behalf of a client in a court, and a document preparation service is not a licensed attorney and cannot practice law. So to reiterate, a document preparation service, again, is a person, and it's very important that you take note that we keep underlying person, because that's also one of the other misconceptions, is that people think that, I'm registered, so my business is registered, but that's not the case. If there's, more than one person preparing documents in a business, everyone that is a document preparer has to be registered with our office. So make sure that you take note of that. And also, so a document preparation service is a person who, for compensation and at the direction of a client, provides assistance to the client in a legal matter and holds himself or herself out as a person who provides such services. Again, here we have a misconception as well, where people will register and there's only one person registered. But if there's two of you holding a Nevada business license, if there's a husband and wife or partners, not just because the one person is preparing documents, but if there's another person on that business license, that person also has to register. That's where it holds himself or herself out as a person who provides such services. That's where that applies. And that applies to like tax preparers, bankruptcy form preparers, immigration form preparers, DMV one-stops, multi-services. And then, as you can see on the paralegals, we have like two little asterisks to that, because we're going to talk about that more. On the paralegals, that's actually also a prohibited term under NRS 248-240. I understand that some of you maybe you went to school and you got a certification for paralegal. The only area in any of your like website or advertising where paralegal may be allowed is if you're talking about, like in the about section of your website, where you may be talking about you and your education, maybe like the experience or education part of that. That's where paralegal can be used. Other than that, if you're not working under the direction and supervision of an attorney, you cannot use the word paralegal to, or you cannot call yourself a paralegal to advertise yourself. So why must a document preparation service be registered? The NRS Chapter 248 of the Nevada Revised Statute and Nevada Administrative Code protects consumers from individuals who would take advantage of clients who need assistance with obtaining or transcribing or translating documents to be filed with a court or administrative agency. So this law actually came to be back in, it was through AB 74 in 2013. And then NRS 248 was enacted March 1st of 2014. So we're going on almost 10 years of this law. And the reason that it actually came to be was because there was a lot of fraud. And like I explained earlier, there was a lot of fraud at the time with the, a lot of people calling themselves notario or the multi-services and charging, taking advantage primarily the Latino community and just charging crazy amounts and not performing the services as promised. So that's why this law came to be. So a registrant is required to be, a document preparation service must be registered and is required to provide a written contract for services to a client, and also must post in a conspicuous place their current certificate of registration and their Nevada state business license, and also must file with our office a $25,000 or $50,000 surety bond or entity bond in the appropriate penal sum. And we're going to have Esperanza's going to talk about this a little bit further and explain about the application and the, I know there's a lot of questions regarding the bond, and so Esperanza will be talking about that. Good. And so the individual requirements to be registered for under NRS 248-100 is that you must be a citizen or legal resident of the U.S. and or hold a valid employment authorization document. So in 2015, through the legislative process, the EAD, which is the employment authorization document, the allowance for that was actually added to our law. So that really opened the door for a lot of other folks that otherwise couldn't have been registered. And then also you must be at least 18 years of age, and then you cannot currently be suspended or disbarred from the practice of law, and you cannot have a criminal record as outlined by NRS 248-290, particularly involving crimes of theft, fraud, or dishonesty within the last 10 years. And then, as I mentioned before, please, I know that I mentioned to maybe put your questions on the chat, but please hold them until we're ready for that. We have a person trying to check in, and as you can see, we have a lot of attendance today, and so we have someone trying to check everybody in, and it's hard to try to keep up with all the questions coming in. So please hold your questions until we have the Q&A section, please. Thank you. Okay, and Esperanza is now going to talk to you guys about the application process.
Hi, hope everyone is doing great. My name is Esperanza Hernandez. I will be going over the process for new application and reapplications and renewals. For the new applications, as you know, you have to submit an application on our webpage and pay the $100 non-refundable fee. And then after that, the process is you have to submit fingerprints. The fingerprints are, they can take anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks. The average is around 8 weeks. Once we get the fingerprints, we will send you an email and let you know if the fingerprints are cleared. And then what's the following step after that? So the step after that is to get a bond. The bond, the surety bond that you need to submit is based on how you hold your license. So there is either a sole proprietor or an entity. So depending on which business you might have, it's either the $25,000 individual surety bond or the $50,000 if you have more than 2 registrants. If you have an entity business, like an LLC, a corporation, and it's only you as a registrant, so that would be one person, then you would have a $25,000, but it would be an entity bond instead of individual bond. The only person that would have an individual bond is if you have a sole proprietor business license. With the sole proprietor business license, you are not able to have employees. So it will only cover yourself. This is just what I went over.
Renewal.
Oh, this is a renewal. So for the renewal process, you will have to submit a renewal application. The fee is $50, non-refundable fee, and you do not have to submit fingerprints. So only if you let your renewal expire, then you will have to submit fingerprints again, and technically it's not considered a renewal, it will be a reapplication, and you will start the process from the beginning. So with the renewal, if you do it, our system will automatically send out an email as a reminder 60 days in advance, and then another one in 30 days, and then if you expire, a day after your expiration date. Once you submit and pay the fee, all you need is to submit the surety bond, a continuation bond if you stay with the same one. And then that can be emailed or mailed to our office. And then if you do change your bond or your surety bond, I forgot to mention, we actually will need the original sealed, raised sealed forms with wet signatures. If you don't get it from the surety company, sometimes they just email them to you. You have to call the surety company and you have to request this. This is a requirement, and this is the complete stop. If we do not receive this from you within 120 days, your application will be rejected and you have to resubmit again. This is what I was just talking about, the sole proprietor. So if you have a business license, which is an NT7 sole proprietor, you will submit an individual surety bond. You can have two registrants if they are under the business license, which is, it can be a partner or a spouse. And on the bottom, you can see the difference in regards to the surety bond. This one will be the individual, $25,000. And then here will be the business entities. You can see the corporation, limit liability. These are the ones that you are able to have employees. And then on the bottom, you can see the amounts of the surety bonds.
Okay, and just to kind of reiterate what Esperanza just said, it's important that you see the difference between the language in the bonds, because that's actually under statute. So if you go into NRS 248-120, you can see where all the different templates are there for the different amounts of the bond and the language that is required. It is important that you submit that, that you look at that, or that you tell your insurance agent to look at that, because a lot of times we end up getting it on this end where it's not the proper template, and then it has to be returned back to you, and that again can take a lot of time back and forth. Okay, so now what consumers can expect. So first of all, well, the reason that, as we mentioned earlier, the reason that an individual registers is protection for the consumer. So the consumer actually can have evidence that that document preparation service is registered with our office in the state of Nevada, by you with all your documentation, with all the postings that are required. There's posted notices that you have to have in your business, including your certificate of registration, your business licenses, and the disclosure notices. Also, again, the surety bond is to indemnify a client who has suffered damage as a result of an act or omission of the registrant, or for fraud, dishonesty, negligence, or other wrongful conduct of the registrant, or wrongful failure or refusal by the registrant to provide services in accordance with the contract. Also, the disclosure of specific information, such as that the person serving as a document preparation service is not an attorney in the state of Nevada, is not authorized to give legal advice or legal representation, and does not accept fees for giving legal advice or legal representation. This actually, well, that statement in a little bit, and also the written contract that needs to be provided to the customer. And that contract, if you transact business with the client in another language, then that contract also has to be in that other language. And the public search function for people to verify, and we really encourage this. There is still a lot of people who probably don't use the tools that we provide them, but we encourage that they use, they go into our website and actually look up. For all of those of you, I mean, for those of you that are here today, obviously, if you're here today is because you are either pending renewal or pending to be approved, or are already an approved registrant. And so if someone searches for you, for your name, or your business, or your registration number, here in this page, they can find you, and they'll find actually current and approved. And what that does for the consumer is letting them know that you're actually basically like in good standing with our office. And so these are actually some of the samples of just what we talked about, like the guidelines or other requirements, besides just paying your $100 to be registered and going through the background check and providing the bond and all of that. There's other requirements that you must comply with. And one of those is this registered notice. That's under NRS 248-160. And this is basically a sample of what needs to be posted in your business. So when a customer walks in, this would look actually more like almost like a banner on your wall. And it's like 12 by 20 is the size that the law requires. But if you want to have it bigger than that, that's okay too. But it should be posted conspicuously to where a customer can walk into your business and see this, see the fees. And if they don't feel comfortable with them, if they don't like the prices you are charging, they can turn around and walk out. That's kind of basically the reason for this notice. And then the written disclosure, this is a disclosure that is actually provided to your client, and they must sign it, and you must sign it as well. And this is just basically giving them your information of that you're registered, your Nevada business license, your surety bond, and also the legal statement. We call that in the middle, the legal statement, that you're not an attorney, you're not authorized to give legal advice, etc. And then this is the written contract, the contract as well that is also by statute or by law. Everything that you see in this sample is information that, or what we call the elements that must be in the contract per NRS 248-190. So everything that you see here is the customer must receive that, and the customer will sign it. And it also has to have your information, your signature, and your registrant information. If there is, 2 or 3 people working at that business or working under that business, all of that information must be in here, or every registered individual must have a contract with their information on it. And then this is the client receipt. As well is under NRS 248-230. All of these are requirements under the law. What you see here also is what the law requires that the receipt must have, and it requires to have the registrant signature, your information. In that signature, we've gotten a few questions recently, which is actually really, it's actually, we welcome that, because we want to know, we know that business is changing, times are changing. And so we know that a lot of folks are going into the digital world. And so this signature right here needs to be a wet signature. However, we've gotten the question of, what if it's digital, etc. Those are things that we're exploring right now. And in order for any changes to happen, we need to take it up to the legislature. So we are taking that into consideration. We've taken note that, people are asking about the, like the DigiSign. So things like that, we're taking that into consideration and making a note of it so that we can actually explore it and maybe amend or update our NRS. And then the most common complaints that we receive are the unlicensed practice of law. This is actually a very fine line. And as we opened up the presentation, obviously we're talking about, that you are assisting a customer, for compensation with a legal matter, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a clear open field to give legal advice or to cross over that line. And so it is a very fine line when you're preparing these documents. A customer should really come to you with already knowing that these are the forms that they want completed. For example, on the immigration arena or even tax, I know in tax preparation, a lot of times they don't know. And I know that in tax preparation, you have your different designations per the IRS of what you can and cannot do. Some of you, are able to basically represent a client in front of the IRS. We take all that into consideration. So we caution you on the unlicensed practice of law because it is a very fine line that you walk there. Also, another most common complaint is the services not performed. And then failure to provide the disclosures and the written contract to the consumer. And then fraud. And fraud is a big one because even though you guys are here, a lot of you are registered, have been maybe are seasoned and have been registered with us. There's a lot of people out there that are still not registered, that are conducting unregistered activity and are doing it intentionally because they are out there committing fraud. We still have a lot of that. And so, that's the primary or most of the complaints that we receive. And then, so how do you file a complaint? So to file a complaint, you can go to our website, nvsos.gov. You can email at docprep@sos.nv.gov, or even call our hotline, our 1-800 number. And so just in any of those means, you can reach out and, we would prefer that you complete the form. This form is actually on our website. And you can see the address below that. We would prefer, obviously, that you complete the form because you provide, a lot of that information. But if you have any questions, you can go ahead and call and we can direct you here, walk you through it. If you need help completing our complaint form. Oh, and then just one last thing before I forget about the form is that there's also on the top there, so you can tell, you can actually tell if people are asking that question. On the top of that page at the corner, there's a section where you can actually flip it to the Spanish language. So if somebody needs this in Spanish, they can actually just click and it'll be in Spanish where they can complete the form in Spanish as well. And then what happens with the complaint once we receive it? So first, the complaint is reviewed for jurisdiction. We get a lot of we also get a lot of complaints that don't belong to us, because when people go in and I don't know, I think if you use, certain words like document or prepare document or something like that, I don't know. A lot of times what comes up is or it used to be like our complaint form that you can access online. So, we review it for jurisdiction and make sure that it is a complaint that belongs either for us for document preparation or even the notary division for notary complaints. I am the notary compliance investigator as well. And then the next step is once it's reviewed and we determine that it is a complaint that belongs with our division, a case number is issued, a case is opened and a case number is issued, and then it's assigned to an investigator, either to myself or Antonio. And then after that, we send a letter to the complainant, letting them know that the case was open and giving them the case number, letting them know that we received their complaint. And then we then send the notice to respondent, mail to whoever the complaint was filed against, and giving them instructions, letting them know why the complaint, and giving them instructions on what they need to do next to respond to our inquiry. And it's very important to keep in mind about the response to the investigator. We'll talk about that in a minute here. And then also after that, we conduct the investigation. And, again, reiterating what is for document preparation, what falls under that is the, tax preparers, the paralegals or immigration form preparers, bankruptcy preparers, DMV one-stops, and multi-services. And then the law provides the Secretary of State's office, along with the Attorney General's office, with statutory authority for enforcement. If a violation is found, the Secretary of State's office can revoke or suspend an individual's registration and or impose civil and or criminal penalties. And so now we want to give you some updates on, we had this last legislative session through Senate Bill 349. We actually had some updates to our law, and it's what we call the like a cleanup bill to streamline the compliance of the program. And so one of the first changes was it allows our office to issue. We had that authority before. However, it was a longer process. We had to go through a hearing process. And so now it allows our office to issue civil fines, suspend registration for no less than a year, revoke registration after a third or subsequent offense for any violations of prohibited acts under NRS 248-240. And then, as I mentioned before, it allows our office to suspend the registration or refuse to renew the registration of a document preparation services who fails to provide information during an investigation of an alleged violation. Like I said, this was important because we get complaints. We would go through our process. We would send out the notice of complaint or open up an investigation based on our initial findings. And we would send out these notices, and then people just, there was times that people would ignore them and not respond. And, we had the authority to, like I said, to issue fines and all of that, but it was a longer process. And now, if you don't respond to a notice that we send you on an open investigation, we have the authority to either fine you or suspend your registration. Any person who violates a provision of this chapter in NRS 248 is liable for a penalty of no more than $1,000 for each violation, plus reasonable investigative fees and costs. And then it also sets a timeline for informing registrants of alleged violations and require response time. Again, we used to have this already. It was kind of hidden in the law. It wasn't out there for people to see it. And so now basically what it is we'll send you the notice and we're letting you know that you have, so much time. That was, like I said, that was already in place, but just reiterating that there is a required response time. And then it requires document preparation services and any of you registrants to update our office when your information changes. So if you change your address, business name, your contact information, any of that, you must notify our office right away. There is a method for that, and we have a form in place for you to complete if there's any changes. And then you'll also need to go into your registration profile and make amendments there to make sure that you are updating that information. It also allows our office to issue civil fines for unregistered activity and assess a fine of up to $1,000 for each violation. Also updated to, it updates to disclosure statements. The first one was kind of a marriage between the legal statement that the document preparation services had with the notary public legal statement that they had as well. We had people on the compliance side for document preparation where we would, when we were doing an investigation or an examination, and we would ask for this legal statement, they would actually give us the notary one. And so now what we've done is we've just combined both so that this is actually effective July 1st. This is the one that you must be using. I am not an attorney in the state of Nevada. I am not authorized to give legal advice or legal representation. I may not accept fees for giving legal advice or legal representation. This is actually and you can just probably print it out if need be, but one of those QR codes, that flyer that we showed at the beginning of our meeting, it's in there as one of those QR codes. You'll find this legal statement. And then the other one is actually more of a courtesy on our part to you. The Nevada, the Department of Motor Vehicles actually, under their law, they now require you to, if you're advertising as a registration service as a third-party business, you need to have this disclaimer or this statement. This document preparation service is a third-party business not affiliated with the Nevada Department of Motor Vehicles. So you need to, if you're doing any advertising, you need to have that in your advertising, and especially if you have DMV, like I don't know, if your business name has any DMV word in it, you definitely need to have this disclaimer there. And then again, it allows our office to issue civil fines, suspend registration for no less than a year, revoke registration after a third or subsequent offense, or assess a penalty of not more than $1,000 for each violation. Okay. So now we are at our Q&A time. So if there's any questions, if you can if you can have them in the chat. We have another one of our staff with the document preparation program, Karina. She's going to be reading out your questions to us so that we can answer them. You can open up the video. Hi, everybody.
Hi, I'm Esperanza.
I'm Irene. Okay, Karina, are you gonna let us know?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question. What if you provide both paralegal services to attorneys and document preparation services to the public too? Are you able to use the word paralegal in your advertising your business?
No, that actually, so how are you employed by the attorney? Are you on their payroll? That's what that means under the direction and supervision of an attorney. Basically, it means that you are employed with them and you're under their payroll. If that is the case, then when if you are doing, if you have that function with them, then when you're working with them, then you can call yourself a paralegal. But if you're independent out here, and also as a, if you're doing like, if you're as a contractor per se, you are still a document preparer. So that's what you need to call yourself, as a document preparation service.
He did mention that he is a contract paralegal.
Yeah, even at that, because it's working independently, he's not under their payroll.
Okay, thank you. The next question I have is, for social media marketing, can we just include the statement in the page bio, or do we need it in each caption and post?
Caption and post.
How you tell them to?
Well, legal statement needs to be visibly posted at least on your first page, on your main page, and the about page. That is, if you have a website, it needs to be clearly visible on the first page. and the about page. Same thing if you have a Yelp or Facebook. Although if you have a Facebook, you may not have enough space, so you're gonna have to pin a post on your post section.
Thank you. The next question is, I only do tax preparation. Do I need all of the disclosure letters and all signed receipts? I do supply invoices upon delivery of tax returns. What do I need to do?
You need to comply with all the regulations under NRS 248.
So that's a yes.
So that's a yes.
Okay. Can a contract be signed by the client electronically?
So as I mentioned before, that is one of the, kind of one of the new things that we're exploring. So we will advise and we will let you all know when any of those changes take place. Because we have to, like I said, it might be that we might need to go through our next legislative session to bring about some of those changes.
Okay. The next question is, where can we get the required guideline samples?
So actually, like I said, if you go into our website, those samples are on that presentation and you'll find the presentation on our website. So Karina, I wasn't sure, did they with their invite or reminder for today, did they get this flyer, the QR codes?
No, they did not in the QR codes.
Oh, okay, so we will be sending you the flyer that we had earlier with the QR codes. We'll be sending you that and you'll have that information there. However, because they're on the presentation, so they're kind of small, but if you send us an email with, requesting, those, samples, the way that we are kind of managing this or working through this is just to let you know, it's going to be we're going to open up an examination. So because when we send you that information, we're going to send you a list of all the guidelines and requirements that you need to have to comply. So it won't just be those 3 documents that you saw. It'll be a list of the things that you need. So I think it's more beneficial for you as a registrant to kind of go through that process and have all that in order to be compliant. So we'll be reaching out. If you send us an email, we will reach back out to you with basically like an examination to walk you through all that process.
Okay. The next question is, do all signed contracts, disclosures, and receipt have to have wet signatures?
Well, again, right now, everything has to have wet signatures, yes. We are looking into, how things are moving for the future. On the notary side, obviously, we have the electronic notaries, the e-notaries, and platforms for digital signatures, etc. But on the doc prep side, that's not there yet. But because through these workshops, we are getting feedback that obviously that's something that you all are moving into. So we will, we're exploring it and we'll get back to you on that.
Natalia, you can answer, you can ask your question.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Is there any more questions?
Karina?
Oh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Now, yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Somebody did do a follow-up. It said, does it state in the NRS that a client's signature on the contract needs to be a wet signature?
Well, that's actually what the explanation was earlier. that it's not, okay, so we can argue it both ways, because it's not, it says that it needs, it is required to have the customer signature and the registrant signature. It doesn't specifically state wet, right? But it doesn't specifically state digital either. Does that make sense? So we are in the process of exploring that. And when we, you know, actually have some kind of a follow-up to that or response, we will, you know, I'm sure we'll put something out, or we'll amend our process and we'll let everybody know.
Okay. Robert asked, are we allowed to seal criminal records?
You know, honestly, that maybe Robert should email us, the compliance investigators, with his specific question, because I'm not familiar with that process and whether there's, you know, how if there's any crossover to unlicensed practice of law. I have to look at that. Actually, I'm sorry, it is my first time getting this question.
Okay. The next one is from Paige. It says, after I get a surety bond, can I walk into your office and hand it to you?
Yes, we do have a blue Dropbox in the main lobby, or they can email us to Doc Prep and schedule an appointment for us to come down and get it from them. But if they just want to come down and drop it off, they can do that. Make sure that if you're doing that, please sign it, because I have a lot where they drop them off and then we have to call them back and they have to come back again to sign it.
Okay. Somebody said, I am out of state most of the time. Oh, this goes back to the wet signature. Should I not take a client without getting a wet signature?
Again, I think that those are, what have they been doing lately? All I'm gonna say to that, I think right now, is if we do an examination, we have a complaint, or we do, because the law does give us authority to do random inspections, and we do an inspection and we come into your business and we request to review, you know, 4 or 5 files from, you know, 2021, 2022, or even last month. You know, if we request to see those documents and there's no signatures, you know, there's enforcement for that, right? There's fines that are gonna happen. So I think that's the response I can give you today. We're not going to be able to tell you, you know, how to operate your business, but just be aware that there is statute behind all of this.
Okay. Brenda asked, can we find a list of bond providers on your website?
I'm sorry?
Can we
A list of bond providers.
can we find a list of bond providers on your website?
So, you know, that may be something else that we'll explore, and we'll probably see if maybe we can find the most common among our registrants and what is out there that they're using. Maybe we're able to publish something like that. Up until now, actually, we were not able to provide you give you any referrals or any information, because we do not endorse anybody. So it's really up to you to do your homework. And as I mentioned before, or maybe not at this meeting, I apologize, but you know, we usually tell folks that we recommend, actually, like, some of the bigger entities that are providing surety bonds, some of the bigger companies, because these, like, you go to your neighborhood, you know, if you go to like your neighborhood Farmers or Blue Cross, or I'm not, you know, those insurance companies, a lot of them don't know that, you know, that there is specifics to your surety bond. And so therefore it is up to you, and that is why we're sharing this information with you. It is up to you to make sure that you know, that you're aware, and that you know the law, and that you actually take them to the site, that you let them know, hey, I'm looking for a document preparation services. I mean, I'm registered for that, and I need a surety bond for that. And on their website, there's specific law that or specific language that is required to be on that surety bond template. So it is up to you. It is your responsibility to make sure that you educate your insurance agent on this.
Okay, Angela asked, will you be having more of these workshops available before the end of the year?
Actually, we were talking about that because we did have a lot of interest, and we are discussing that we probably are gonna have maybe at least one more before the end of the year, and maybe several coming up next year.
Okay, Mr. Sabetti, if you want to unmute yourself to ask your questions.
Karina, if you can let us know, because on this end, our space is limited, so we can't really see if there's anybody asking.
We can't hear anything.
Okay, I'll just keep reading the next question. So yes, you can deliver a bond to the office. You do have to make an appointment to hand deliver it to us. And you can do that by emailing us at docprep@sos.gov, or you can drop it off at the drop box downstairs with security. Just make sure you sign in so we have your name on file. The next question after that is, does DMV disclaimer need to be included in our contracts or advertisements if DMV is not indicated in the title of Doc Prepare's business name?
Oh,
Business for community, so we still have to enter the disclaimer.
Do you want me to repeat it?
yeah, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, it says, does the DMV disclaimer need to be included in our contracts or advertisements if DMV is not indicated in the title of the Doc Prepare's business name?
I would still say yes, just to be on the safe side.
Well, you are a document preparation service, and if you are, if your function is DMV services, then you must have the disclosure. I said, especially if you have DMV in your business name, but if you are doing that function, that disclosure is under the law. You must have it.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is there any preparation courses or training that we as a preparation service can take and keep up the preparation, maybe with different topics like notary, new rules, sharing business results, experiences, etc.?
Well, this workshop, or these workshops that we've been holding, actually were long overdue. We, I realized that we should have had them, several years ago. So this is actually great that we're able to hold these workshops now. But the reason that these workshops actually came to be was because of the legislative updates that we had that were we feel they're actually very impactful, effective July 1st. And these, the updates, especially with the fine authority that we now have, we're wanting you to know ahead of time. We are here to work with you, to help you. As we mentioned, there's going to be the process of, if you want to make sure that you're compliant with everything, and you want to send us an email requesting, some of these samples, that we're going to go ahead and treat it as an examination, and kind of, because that will help you to make sure that you have everything in order. But if for the future, what we are actually hoping to do is, we're doing these workshops now. We do have, as I mentioned, we had a lot of interest, so we still have some, probably a couple of 100 people out there that still want to, to participate. So we are going to be holding, a couple more, just to make sure that we can reach those individuals. However, I believe that in the next legislative session, we are probably going to make it to where it's mandated, a requirement for registration. So we are kind of talking about that and looking into kind of adding it as part of like, just like the notary, if on the notary side, you have to take that course, kind of similar, you'd have to do that for document preparation services. So that's kind of what we're moving into. As far as, having other forums, probably not. If we do any other outreach, we also focus some of that outreach for the constituents, right, for the consumer, to let them know, that the best way to verify that you are legitimate, that you are registered, that you do have a bond, that you've been through the background, that you've gone through the background check and all of that. We also do the outreach to the consumer to let them know that, how to find you, the tools that we have in place that they need to look for to go to a legitimate document preparation service.
Next question. In our written contract, we have information about the complaint. Are we required to have a separate banner, the same as the disclosure notice banner, for how to file a complaint for customers to know the process?
Did you get the question? And it's about the contract, right?
So the contract, basically, like I mentioned earlier, the contract has what we call elements, right? If you actually go into the law itself, NRS 248-190, you will find all the stuff that it requires, all the elements. And so what you see on the contract are the elements that the law requires. And so, no, you don't have to go through an extra avenue to make sure that the customer gets that. The customer is getting that disclosure basically in the contract. It's there. So I'm not sure if that answered the question.
Okay. The next question is, what if it is electronically notarized? That is still considered a legal signature. The statute does not state that we will get fined for not having the wet signature, or how would we get fined for sanctions for something like this?
Again, the statute doesn't indicate that it can be, that digital is allowed either. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're in a transitional phase and we are going to explore that. And if they have any more questions, specifically digital, they can send them an email. We'll go ahead and take a look, or kind of put them all together and look into that a little bit further. Honestly, we haven't had any issues up until today. This meeting today, with these attendees today, that we're having this question. We've had the question brought up before at our other workshops, but I could probably tell you maybe 3 people asked. But in this particular forum, a lot of people are asking. So, this is actually, I mean, we're just encountering it. So again, as I mentioned before, it depends on if there's a complaint, if we do an examination, we'll take a look at that situation then. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but we're exploring it now with our administrators and, for further discussion.
Okay, the next question is, what if you have a home business that you work from? Are requirements any different since you don't have an outside office?
You also, in regards to the home-based business, a lot of people have categorized themselves as a home-based business. You need to be very cautious with that because, and through the pandemic, I know that a lot of people kind of tended to go that route because, businesses were closed and they were like, well, I'm doing business at my house. But in reality, when you look under NRS 76, you are not supposed to have any customers come to your home. And there's an income limit to that as well. So you need to explore the law, NRS 76-100, to look at the actual definition of a home-based business and what you can and cannot do. Again, we don't tell you how to operate your business, but I will tell you that there is now Also investigators that are actually, that's one of their main focuses right now, is to actually verify these home-based businesses, because we have a lot of them that are not home-based businesses. And the reason that they were doing the home-based business exception was so that they wouldn't pay for the license. So right now, that's actually one of their, areas that they're looking into.
Okay, the next question, SB 349 indicates that the legal disclaimer must be in substantial compliance with addition that cannot accept fees for giving legal advice. Is this strict compliance with language or substantial compliance for purposes of not crowding advertisement on contract? Or contract, sorry.
So if we're understanding correctly, are you saying you want to shorten the legal statement? The legal statement is under statute, that's why it's in the law, because that is what's required. So what, all of the language that's there is what needs to, if you're advertising, you need to have that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I asked that question. The reason I asked that question was because, so like on your business card, or if you're sending out like, postcards to customers, that the way that you guys wrote it out in the QR code is different than what it reflects in the statute or SB 349. It's a lot longer the way it's written out in the QR code. So for the you got limited space on the business card, and if it has to be at 12 points or whatever it is, it's going to take up a lot of room on there. So I was just wondering if it's okay, it's in substantial compliance with the traditional way it was, with just adding or cannot accept money for legal advice.
No, actually, effective July 1st, that's the new legal statement. And I think if you're mentioning, I think what's on the presentation, it was more for like explanation. When you saw the red message that was there that said, I am not, was changed a little bit in that way just to make it a little bit more clear, but really what is under statute, that legal statement. And I'll look at the one on the QR code, because the one on the QR code is what we picked up from the NRS. I mean,
The
from
one
the bill, SB 349.
The one that I see, I'm looking at the SB 349 that was amended on April 10th of 2023 reflects the registrant is not an attorney.
Are you looking at the enrolled, I'm sorry, are you looking at the enrolled version effective July 1st?
Yes, the one, it was amended, I think it's the original one that was from dated April 10th of 2023. And it says it's under 248.150, the advertisement for services of registrant. And it indicates the language that they added to it. They crossed out, it has like little like crossed out language, and then the added language. It says it shall otherwise include with the advertisement a notice in the language in which the advertisement appears. The must be of conspicuous size if in writing, and must appear in substantially the following form. And then it goes on to indicate the language, which is the registrant is not an attorney authorized to practice in this state and is prohibited from providing legal advice or legal representation to any person or accepting fees for giving legal advice. Now, the one on the QR code and what's listed here in the materials that I saw is a lot longer with a more language in it. And so for the purpose of advertising, so we could get our effective materials out and not have it crowded up with so much legal jargon, is it okay if we use this one that's reflected in the SB 349 amendment?
Yes, Mr. Samiti, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, did you open the QR code that says summary of Senate Bill 349 by any chance? Did you open that one?
No, the one that I opened up says I am not an attorney in the state of Nevada. I am not authorized to give legal advice or legal representation. I may not
Yes.
accept fees for,
Yes.
it's a lot longer.
That's the latest one. And
That's effective July 1st.
yeah, that's the latest.
Okay, got it. Which brings me to my next question is, where can we as registrants see the newly adopted, since this came out on July 1st, if you go to the NRS website, it doesn't appear that those new laws have been updated on the web yet. So where can we view that so we have adequate notice of the new laws?
So you see it's in our website, but again, we're gonna send you this flyer when this meeting is over. We'll send you this to everybody who attended. But all of this is on our website, and there's a section that's called the summary of the Senate Bill 349. It's on our website. You can look at that. And, you know, obviously, yes, I apologize, but it's too soon. I mean, as you can imagine, everybody in the state has had, you know, probably amended or updates to their NRS. And so it takes a lot of work, and it takes time to codify that, to update the actual administrative code and the actual NRS. So yes, it's not in there, but we're providing you the information here. But also, if you go on our website, there's a tab on the side. When you go into doc prep, there's a little tab on the side that says that it's actually labeled like bill summary or something to that effect. And that's where it is.
Okay, thank you for that. Also, it also says it in English and in Spanish on the one that was in the QR code. Are we required to do that in both languages, or is it just English sufficient?
Do you practice in Spanish?
No, I mean, I don't, but I can't, I only speak, you know, English. And I don't speak Spanish at all. I'm not sure if my customers, you know, some of my customers are Spanish speaking customers, but I'm confused about that.
No, it's only if you transact in that language. If you're basically talking to your customer in Spanish or kind of transacting that way, then you must have it in the other language. Like for you, I'm not sure if you speak a second language. And if you have another language and you have customers that you're transacting in that other language, then you must have these documents in that other language.
Okay, so it's just for the language I'm transacting in, not the language that my customer is transacting in.
Well, so for example, if I have a business and I am speaking to somebody, I have a Russian customer, comes in and speaks Russian, and we are conversing in Russian and going through the transaction in Russian, then those documents must be given in English and Russian to the customer.
So if you're speaking in English and you don't speak Russian, but your customer's Russian, then it just needs required to be in English only?
Well, yeah, how are you transacting? You're obviously speaking English because.
I don't know, maybe like they have a friend or something that's translating for them.
English, I would say English. You're understanding each other in English and there's a translator.
Okay, thanks for the clarification on that. And last thing I wanted to mention was I know a lot of these statutes were adopted like from the notary statutes. They were like basically copy and pasted into this section. And one
Not
thing,
now, I mean, it's been 10 years, but initially, yes, back in 2013.
right? So I was gonna suggest like on the electronic signatures. I know you guys still need to get approval on that in order to make it official, but the DMV has adopted something like that. Maybe you guys could reference, and it's on page 68 of the record and tow car guide. It's basically like a DocuSign type of format where there has to be like a date and a timestamp for the electronic signatures, and they accept those. So just for you guys is making new proposals, I guess, and maybe that would be helpful for guidance. Thank you.
Sorry, you said it's under where?
It's on page 68 of the DMV record and tow car guide, and there's a link there. I could type the link into here if you want. It's more convenient for you.
Yes,
We'll look
go
it
ahead
up.
and
Okay.
did you have any other question?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question I have is, hello, my question is, I do bookkeeping. Should I give the client all 3 documents for each monthly payment, or should I only put it in the description that is a 12-month payment?
So they do bookkeeping, do they have to write the receipt for each month or one a year is fine? I would probably say one a year. I mean, however you operate, you know. Are you billing every month? Then you must have a receipt every month. Are you billing annually? I think it's up to you. Karina, you're there?
Yeah, so for the wet signature questions, like we mentioned before, if you want to go ahead and email us at docprep@sos.nv.gov your question, that way they can look at it and just make a general information for everybody regarding wet signatures. You can go ahead and do that. The next question I have is, I saw this is a new law. A lot of DMV service have mentioned it. Besides registering as a DMV service with DMV, anything new as far as doc prep services?
Can you rephrase that question? I didn't understand.
So is there anything new with this new law that passed regarding doc prep services?
In regards to GMB services,
Just the instance, that's something new.
the statement,
Well, everything that we talked about,
other than the information that we just gave you and the statement for DMB, I think that's it.
Okay, perfect. The next question is, I only sign for my clients' tax reports, the 1099s and the W-2s. If someone calls and wants to hire me, can I refuse? I did not know we were listed publicly. I don't have a microphone. Oh, sorry. So she only signs for her clients' tax reports, the 1099s and W-2s. If someone calls and wants to hire her, can she refuse?
You know, I think that maybe that should be a more specific question, if she can email that. Or, yeah, they can email that question, we'll answer it.
Okay. Let's see. The next question. Do you guys have a PowerPoint that you can send to for everyone to review this meeting?
It's on the website.
Okay.
And then we're gonna send this at the end of the presentation.
Okay, yeah, there is a flyer we're gonna be sending out.
It has all the information, including the workshop presentation.
Okay. The next question, an EA needs to register if they're preparing documents other than tax returns, like immigration forms. If so, on the disclaimer that shows the cost, does it have to be the cost of the preparing tax returns or just disclaimer of the cost for the other documents prepared?
By the disclaimer, you mean the registered notice, maybe? Yes, the registered notice includes the registered information as well as the fee schedule. And I would only include the main activities. If you have many activities, then you can probably just put a note to see the fee schedule and actually show the customer a fee schedule, a binder with a list of prices in detail.
Okay, let's see. After supplying a bond and application fee, can I come to the office to get licensed by appointment?
Yes, if you email us, and we have openings, yes.
Okay, next question. If you are current right now on the document preparation service licensing, then, okay, yeah. So this is for renewals. If you are renewing and you renew on time for your document preparation services, you do not need to do your fingerprints again. It's only the first time when you apply. The next question is, if I wish to start providing DMV services and I already have a doc prep certificate and a surety bond, do I need any additional certification or can I use my current license and just provide new disclosures?
So we kind of went through what you are required to have as a document preparation service. So you must be compliant with all the regulations. You must have your Nevada business license and any other jurisdiction, because you can have a Clark County business license, depending on where you're located, city of Las Vegas or North Las Vegas, etc. Business license, and then also your document preparation registration. So does that answer the question?
Thank you. So somebody has a question. Am I obligated to do doc prep for the public, or can I restrict my clientele?
Again, we don't tell you how to run your business. We don't tell you how to operate. It's up to you. However you handle it just privately or however you handle your operation.
Okay. So we have time for about 2 more questions, and then we're gonna start wrapping this up. I have one question from Riquetta. If I work at a tax place as a tax preparation person and I want to also do notary, will I have to get a bond for both or just for notary?
For both.
Okay. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, thank you, everybody, for attending, for participating. And we hope that this was very helpful to you, that you, that you got a lot of information and that you learned a lot from this. Again, any questions, you can certainly email us.
Yes. So like you see on the screen, there's a couple of emails that you might want to write down. You can send us an email and we will do our best to get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.